All right. We are live. Yes, we are live. Okay, great. Where's my water bottle? Somehow I did last week's live stream completely without my water bottle. I'm surprised I made it. I carry that with me everywhere I go. Let's see. We've got Man of Means was the first with a comment. I'm not sure what woot means. I'm sure it's good. Good evening from Northeast Maryland, KC3NZY. What is my favorite CW key and why? My favorite CW key for straight key is a J38, which is a military key from World War II, I guess actually slightly before, but was made in vast numbers in World War II. They're still around. You can still buy them at Hamfests and whatnot. During the, right after the war, they sold for about $0.25 a piece at surplus stores, and now they're like $25 to get one in reasonably good shape. I've got 2 or 3 of them, one of which I've got mounted and is my favorite straight key. Now, that does not mean that that is the reference station key, because it's surplus, because it's sometimes hard to get. I picked one that's new. This is actually made by CWMorse.us. You can see the writing right there, CWMorse.us. But it's available from MFJ, and it's reasonably priced. It's an MFJ 566M. M as in Mary. Now, as far as paddles, my favorite paddle is this one, which is the Bencher BY1. And I don't know why, but this is set the standard for everything. It's iambic set, and I've had that for many years, and it will wear forever. Now, I don't have a reference station paddle because I consider that a second step after getting into CW, but MFJ does make a little key like this. It's a set of paddles. This is much more reasonably priced. The BY3, I think you can spend over $160, $170 for that thing. It's not cheap. Okay. My overhead doesn't work tonight for some reason. Let me just try it again. Nope, no work. Okay, let's see. So that's my favorite key. Hope you're doing well. I am feeling much better, yes. The best way to learn CW, after you've learned the basics, is to get on some of the frequencies where you'll find very slow CW. 7050, 7110 are the 2 areas where you'll find slow, very slow Morse code. And the best way, bar none, to really learn Morse code is to get on the air. Why? Well, because, you know, if you get some little machine that's sending you random characters, or you've got a program or something, that's fine. But if you miss one, well, you go on to the next one. Whereas if you're talking with somebody, you tend to be a lot more focused on what's going on. And believe me, 5 word per minute KE0OGs are excruciatingly slow. I know that. But your speed will rapidly rise from that. And now my speed has descended. I had it up to about 20. Well, I did. I passed the extra with 20. But I'd say it's about 10 right now that I can do comfortably. So, I mean, because there are so many abbreviations in Morse code, you can get thoughts and so on through a lot faster. Rather than my location is, you just say QTH is. Or just QTH, send the letters QTH and then Ridgeway, Colorado. just leave it at that. And then it just makes things a lot shorter to use the Q signals. I was asked about a Q signal recently, QSK, which I'm going to actually make a video about. That was supposed to be the video for yesterday, but it never got made. So it will be the video for tomorrow. I have received a couple interesting things in the mail. One of them, let me unplug all the plugs, is this right here from, and let me make sure I get the call sign right, AB1K in Roseville, California. Very interesting little device trying to do some very interesting things. He sent it to me in confidence because he's going to patent that, and it can't be public before it's patented. So waving something like this, you don't see the details, and that doesn't give it away. And apparently you have to file for the application before you go commercial with it. Otherwise it becomes unpatentable. And then I got this thing. Who knows what this is? This was actually suggested by an Augie. I have seen this before on the internet, and it just doesn't seem possible to me that that's a 20-meter antenna that will perform as well as a dipole. Well, you can guess what's going to happen. It was like $89 by the time you pay for rather expensive shipping. It was shipped to me all the way from Florissant, Colorado, which is this side of Colorado Springs, so it really didn't come that far. But this is an antenna for 20 meters. And as near as I can tell from researching the internet, it works. And we'll find out how well. I'll give this a standard test. I give every antenna, I'll put this up, get it all balanced, get it resonated to the right frequency, and it's supposed to cover the 20-meter band. Now, you'll note on here that this white stuff is a coil. That's a whale of a big coil. It's a loading coil is what it is, because then you can have a radiator, which is that, and it will radiate on 20 meters. So we'll find out. We'll find out. This is the counterpoise right here with some little square thing on the end of it, and it's got a wire coming from the mounting right here. So it wants to be mounted on an aluminum pole. I was going to mount it out here in a fiberglass pole that I had, but I read the instructions more carefully. This wants to be mounted on a aluminum pole. And then if this works as, it's called an isotron, and it's supposed to have a pretty uniform angle of radiation. We'll see. We'll see how it comes out. Now, on the MFJ 1886 antenna that I have, I did contact MFJ on that, talked to Hank there at length. It was very nice and helped me out. He set me up with a replacement for this because I couldn't find it anywhere. I did have Augies, I think more than one, volunteered to 3D print this for me. And I really appreciate that. I could order the box, but without the holes. I figured, well, you know, if I'm going to MFJ, I'll get one with the holes already in it, and we'll see what we can do. You can see what the UV has done to this box. This box does not like UV, and it warped the cover on this and actually created an air gap in the seal over it. It's, I mean, even if it were sealed, it has these holes here and here. These are what are known as weep holes. This part goes down, and any condensation inside can go out those holes. So that works really well. All right, so let's see what else we've got in the way of questions. This is from Surrey, British Columbia, VA7 WXZ. Robert Harriman wants to know if a loop inside will work. I mean, it will work. Any antenna is better than no antenna, but it depends on your building. If you are in a high-rise apartment, a lot of those, the way they're built, they're kind of Faraday cages. It's hard to get a signal in or out. You may have noticed that with your cell phone. It's hard to get cell phone coverage inside. A lot of times those windows, the big windows on the high-rise apartments, are metallized on the outside to keep the solar radiation transiting the window down. That can make it hard. If they're not metallized, you can even just put up a loop with some copper tape up on the window and then feed that. You'd have to get the capacitor and all that sort of stuff like that. VK3YE, I think that's the right thing. He has a YouTube channel. He's from Australia, obviously, VK. He has done antennas, loop antennas, where he uses a length of coax cable, uses the innate Faradays per foot kind of measure to get the right capacitor for that with a little vernier tuning on the thing. And it's a great way to make a loop very inexpensively. The other option, if you want to run 100 watts, which you probably do to make up for the fact that you're indoors, is the MFJ antenna, but we're looking at $500 or more there. So my first apartment as a married man in Tampa, Florida, when I was in the Air Force, I actually strung a 20-meter dipole the length of the apartment. My wife wasn't real happy about that, but okay, let's see. We got a few more questions here. Good evening. Hello. Victor Alpha 2 KPJ. Kilo Echo 8 MUW/AE. Okay, well, the /AE means you just passed your amateur extra upgrade. Congratulations to you, Ron. Very good. And I am feeling better, by the way. I don't know if I reported this last week or not, but my hematocrit, or hemoglobin on November 27th was 8.5 grams per deciliter. It's supposed to be between 14 and 18. So it was way low, very anemic. But on December 9th, the hemoglobin was 12 grams per deciliter. Again, 14 is the threshold to being normal and all that. So I thank all of you for your thoughts and prayers and kindness and financial support and everything like that. And I am just tickled that you guys support me. I just feel like I owe you so much for that. And let's see. Is there an online course to get your beginning license? Yes, there is. Go to KE0OG.net. That's the key. .net/training. Okay? And let me look at it with you on the screen. We're going to go to KE0OG.net/training. Okay, and this will bring up on my website, resolving host. That doesn't look good. There we go. Whoops. I don't want that one. I want this one. A technician class ham license. This video that's on that page will show you everything you need to do to get started. This is how you get the ARRL license manual. The videos here follow the license manual section 4 section. By the way, I was just talking with the ARRL earlier this week about that, and seeing if we can't formalize some sort of a relationship. That would be very nice. But in the meantime, these videos are absolutely free, and here they are. Here are the videos. If you click on one of these, okay, it will take you to YouTube.
You can operate,
and it will take
memory
the it will take you to the video, and I suggest you go back and follow along using this web page to keep track of what you have watched. The problem is YouTube is not very good about serial videos. Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, Part 4, Part 5. Okay, for example, I was looking on YouTube for something to watch, and I saw something that talked about how after Pearl Harbor, the Navy raised all the ships that it could to be either repaired or towed out to sea because they were clogging up the harbor. And it said, Clearing Pearl Harbor Part 2. Okay, where's Part 1? Well, YouTube does nothing to help you find Part 1. So I just searched for it and looked for it because I wanted to watch Part 1 before Part 2. But in any event, here, this right here, if you use this page, here are all the videos. And the idea is to watch the video first, then to read the book and attempt the questions that go with that section, and then go back and watch the video for the next section. I deliberately do not teach the test. I teach the material so that when you come upon a question, you're not learning just the answer to that question, but you're learning the answer to a whole series of questions, some of which might be on your exam. Okay, let's go back to live streaming here. Presentation was on ham radio on YouTube. Oh, cool, yes. Okay, winding a balun, that's the difference between using THHN versus enameled wire. THHN has a plastic covering on it, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But that plastic does push the winding a little bit further away from the coil form. Like this coil in this isotron antenna is THHN wire. Okay. Now, enameled wire is easier to find. You can get the turns closer to each other and closer to the core. And however, if you do that, you'll get higher capacitance, the interwinding capacitance. And it's a little harder to find. I don't know of a ready source for enameled wire other than through ham radio sources. There's a website called The Wireman. He's a ham, and he will have coax and wire and all this kind of stuff that you need. Okay. Let's see. I have been watching your general videos, and they really helped with the RMS section. Take the test Sunday. Good. Been scoring 33 of 35 or higher on all practice tests. Great, Daniel. Sounds like you're ready. Yes, okay. A J37 leg key? Yeah, there's all kinds of keys. If you get the bespoke, a new key from a premium manufacturer, you'll pay $300 to $500. There is no need to pay $300 to $500. This little key will do just fine. And I don't think you'll send any better code with this than you will, or with the expensive one than you will with this one. How long does a reasonable key last? A lifetime. The J38 will last you a lifetime. Southeast Wisconsin, Calgary, Alberta. Oh, I bet it's cold. What would be the best way to put up a temporary antenna in a car without drilling holes for the wire? I heard ghost wire that can be used through windows. MFJ and several other manufacturers make antennas that the coax comes inside the window to a patch about that big. Okay, and then there's a patch on the outside and the antenna, and it goes through the glass. And those big squares act like capacitors to get it through the glass. They work. They work, and it's a good way not to have to cut a hole in anything. And they'll be, what, $40, something like that. Not very much. Okay. But should you be worried about mounting a wire antenna where if it fell, it could fall on the insulated electrical drop? I have no other place to mount. I mean, my first impression is to say don't do that. Now, you point out that it's insulated. What if there's a crack? I mean, the UV gets that insulation just like it gets every other insulation. I wouldn't do it. I just, the safety part of me says don't do that. I would really recommend against that. Does Dave read chat? I'm reading the chat right now, but I'm not. I'm not a chat kind of guy. I don't know. I'm a little old-fashioned. My daughter uses all the fancy social media. I use YouTube and Gmail, and that's about it. Let's see. Best to read it all. Let's see. Lots of thumbs up. Thank you for those who are doing that. Oh, let's get back here. Oh my, it's past start time, isn't it? Okay. Capacitance hat on the end of the rod, grounded. It is Rube Goldberg, and I like the Dr. Seuss idea. This is the 20-meter isotron antenna. Yeah, it sure looks weird to me. But I would not have gotten this, but it was only like 80, let's see, with shipping it was about $100. And I said, okay, I had an Augie ask me about this antenna, and there is money in the channel funds to get it. So I got it, and there it is. And believe me, it'll get the same test. That now, the actual quality of the workmanship is pretty good. These little things here are all soldered. Everything is soldered nicely. I mean, it's really put together to last. If it works. I don't know if it will work. I will do it my best. Okay. I've heard you can use 75 ohm coaxial feed line. Yes. If it is a half wavelength long. The problem is it's a half wavelength long at one frequency. And either side of that frequency, it's either longer or shorter. Okay? But 75 ohms just isn't that far away from a resonant 50 ohms. I mean, the SWR, I'd say about, 1.5, 1.6? Something like that. And you can tune that out very easily. 75 ohm coax, RG6, is available at Home Depot, Lowe's, your local TV store, whatever, and it is dirt cheap. It is incredibly cheaper than RG8X or RG58 or anything like that. It is 75 ohms, and you may have some fun putting connectors on it. But it does work. It does work, yes. Rosy cheeks looking good, yeah. Checking the medical charts. Hello. Need more orange juice to rebuild your blood. There you go. Checking the medical charts. All right. VE with Glarg. Got my tech. Okay, extra from W5YI. Yeah, I just did a video on doing exams remotely. I think that's the coming thing. I'm thinking that in 5 years, that'll be about all there is online sort of stuff. And it's going to have to really do a revolution in the whole VE thing. Okay, F11DRE, Pascal. 73's France City of Tours. Thank you for the explications and videos. Yes. KE0OG. Let's see. Southern Texas or northern Mexico, depending on your viewpoint. Yeah, well, you go into New Mexico, and doggone, I think the old Mexicans that used to rule New Mexico area never left, and they still do it, and the good thing too. New Mexico is kind of an interesting place, full of Indian reservations. You go from one end to the next as you go down Highway 50. Albuquerque's a pretty good-sized area. Brad Rich and Augie, a patron and a friend of mine, lives in Alamogordo, and I visited him and did a couple videos about his antenna and grounding installations. Okay, so like ham study, 100%. Well, you're getting ready to go. Please rate these multiband antennas, starting with the most favored according to your and only your opinion. The G5RV I don't like. Wyndham I've never used. It will take a tuner. The unfed half wave, I tested one for my antennas and I was amazed how well it worked. Continues to work. Felipe, thank you very much for contributing $20 to channel funds. It's used to buy things from the wild and the wacky like this to paying for web hosting and sometimes helping out with airplane license teaching here too. Got the ICOM. This is J72 IMS Ishmael Samuel. I was just talking with Brad Rich about you here recently. You've got the ICOM 9100. Just need to set up the vertical antenna and you're in good shape. Good. Great results with the ZS6 BKW. Okay, thank you for the kind words. The 450D is a very nice radio. You can get them new for not very much money, and I would recommend new equipment for a new general. You don't want to get somebody else's problems. It's just not something you want to have to deal with. Okay, 450D is a nice radio. J37's upwards of $50 on eBay, yeah. Okay, and Paul B., thank you very much for contributing $20. He says, happy to see you back to posting helpful videos more regularly again. The one I'm going to do tomorrow is going to be a question that was asked, what's QSK? And I thought, well, I could answer simply, it's a way of setting up your transmitter so you can hear the receiver between the dits and the dots. But wouldn't it be nicer to actually demonstrate that? So I'm going to do that. On the ICOM 7300, it's called break-in. And you can do full or just break-in, which is partial break-in, or you can do no break-in at all. And if you do that, you have to push the transmit key to actually transmit, and then push the transmit key again to get back to receive. So we don't need VEs? Oh, we will. We will need VEs. It's just that they'll be not necessarily working as little local teams like they've been here. Like when I was in the Boulder area in Louisville, we had a VE team that was made up of people just from right around there. And now you can be a VE in Colorado on a team that is based out of Tennessee, giving tests to hams in Alaska and Hawaii, And you know, the shape of it will change as it moves more and more online. Let's see. Let's see. GMW6LG, per his YouTube channel, has found some bad errors in the new extra class book with respect to questions and answers on ground rods and safety. Am I aware of any errors in the book? Yes, there are errors in the book. There is an errata sheet available if you go to the ARRL support website for the extra book. It will give you the errata sheet. I'm not aware of the ground rods. I'll have to go back and look at that. I didn't think they changed that section at all. The safety sections have been about the same forever. I'll take a look at that. Okay, and the difference between Coax and Helix, cost. You'll be using Coax. Helix is for very high power at very high and ultra high frequencies. I mean, by high power, I mean hundreds of watts, maybe thousands of watts. You'll be using Coax. Just bought the station reference power supply, Samlex. Plugged it in. All 30 minutes ago, but when I turn it off, the voltage hangs around 7 to 8 volts and makes a buzzing, arcing sound. I've noticed with mine that it takes a while for the voltage to go down. There should be a bleeder resistor in there that pulls it down. If it's making an arcing sound, I would contact your supplier or else talk to Samlex, because it shouldn't. It should go down. It takes like 20 seconds to get all the way down. I use RG6 for most of my HF, and he puts on F connectors and then uses an F to PL259. There you go. And Pablo, thank you for your thumbs up. Greetings from Brisbane. I am feeling better. What do you think of the FTDX10? I've only seen it in pictures. I think that Josh Hoshnazi has one to look at. He's right in LA, and so is the Yaesu headquarters, so it's very easy to just drive down and get one. I don't have that luxury. Okay. Deep dive into QSK should be interesting. Best place to buy old ham gear? eBay. But you don't know what you're going to get because you're dealing with the seller directly. Do you like end-fed antenna performance better than your off-center fed reference antenna? It doesn't matter how you feed a dipole, it's a dipole. And assuming you feed it properly. The off-center fed dipole, which is the reference antenna, works really well. It covers all of 20 and all of 40, and in additionally 10 and 6. The 80 meter end-fed dipole that I have for my antennas, of course, only covers a small portion of 80 meters, but it covers all of 40 and on up. All those bands, it covers the whole band. It's a really nice antenna. It works really well. Best places, so you have a little older handy-talkie suggestions on a newer model, dual band. Well, two that I like are the Radioddity GD77, which will do both FM and DMR, and the Anytone D878UV, which will do FM and DMR. They're both dual band radios. One's much cheaper than the other. So, do you like the end-fed antenna? Let's see. Does stainless steel rod's velocity factor 0.5? I don't think it's 0.5. I think it's closer to 0.95 because it's wire. I don't know. I'll have to. No, it just would just make the antenna smaller. Stainless steel is not the best conductor of electricity. It has higher loss, than copper or anything like that, but it has a high enough that you can work with it. I'd have to look that up. I'm surprised that it would have a velocity factor of 0.5. Let's see, Bill Fogel is a VE both through the local club and the GLARG for online. VE standpoint online is boring. Yeah. It goes down smoothly, but then it hovers and makes an arcing sound. Yeah, mine goes down to 7.8, jumps up a tad, and then goes down to 0. I've got a couple other things on that than just the rig. The errors... Oh, actually, in the test questions, some of the test questions are weird. Smoking Ape, hello, how are you? I never get to your Zoom meetings. Monkey see, monkey do. My F to PL259 adapters are being shipped by Amazon due here on Monday. Let's see. Greg Miron. You teach us ham radio, but more importantly, you teach us how to manage health challenges with persistence, perseverance. Thank you. Channel Fund, $20, KJ6ER in Silicon Valley. Thank you very much, Greg. I appreciate that. Just took my technician license on the 2nd. He's now KN6MQK. Very good. Okay, what do I think of the ASU 950? That's an older radio. It's fine radio. You'll find more bells and whistles on the newer radios. The 991B, of course, is a new radio, and it has plenty of bells and whistles, I'll tell you that. Okay, let's take a look at the questions. We're already 20 minutes into the official part of the meeting, and I haven't opened up the questions yet. Okay, go into here, click, oh shoot, now I've got to go to Gmail, and then I go to hamradioanswers@gmail.com. There are quite a few that are new. We'll see how well we do with these. I am horribly far behind on these. The League has contacted me about doing some stuff more formally for them. And I'm contemplating their ideas. I don't want it to interfere with this channel. They're talking about actually bringing some of this channel on board as official ARRL. So we'll see. Let's see. This one is from Michael Gerardo, who is in Bali in Indonesia. He wants to fit an antenna. His land size is only 10 meters by 10 meters. That's 30 feet square. Not very big. Wants to build a 40-meter band antenna and, if possible, dual band with 80 meters. Doesn't have any balance. Has some 1/2-inch and 3/4-inch PVC pipe. He has some aluminum pipe and some copper wire, diameter 1.5 millimeters, which would be about what? 12 gauge? I don't know. Okay. What I suggested to him, and I did send him a individual response, I said you could fit a 40-meter antenna across your property from catty corner across, because that'll be, instead of 30 feet, it'd be about 45 feet. And an antenna is 66 feet long. You can actually hang the ends down. Make sure that they are not anywhere children can grab them or anything like that. I said an 80-meter antenna in that space would be very difficult. You could put in a loaded vertical for 80 meters with a loading coil on it, but it would take a lot of loading, and the antenna bandwidth would still be very narrow, 10 kilohertz maybe. Says I would suggest focusing on a 40-meter vertical. It's 33 feet high. So 10 meters high, and you'd need as many radials as you have wire for. And you can add more radials later as you get more wire. The vertical might be the best idea because you can then spread radials to the property line wherever. Okay. And if you've got a ground mounted radial, the length of the radials is not critical. And more radials is better than fewer radials. Okay, this next one is from Noel Bowles, WP4KFP, which would be in Puerto Rico. It says, my name is Noel, call NP4M in Florida. Okay. Was wondering if you can help me solve an issue I'm having with an MFJ loop that is not working. I think there's something wrong with the tuning capacitor, but I'm no expert by any means. I reached out to MFJ and they told me to check the tuning capacitor motor is turning it around. Took the cover off today and checked to see if it's turning around, and it is. But it's not doing anything at all. No changes on the meter and no changes on the received sound in the rig. So this tells me there may be something going on with the capacitor or tuning box. Okay, the way the MFJ antenna works, it's got a humongous capacitor at the top. It's got wire down here, and then there's a loop at the bottom where it's fed. Okay, the first thing to understand, Noel, is that it's extremely narrow band. So if you're just tuning across the band, the extremely narrow point where it will tune to what you're listening to, you can go right by it without hearing it. So I would connect it to the controller. I've got a controller right there. Okay, let me get this controller. This is the controller for the MFJ loop. Now, basically, what you do is this thing will find the resonant point for you. Okay? Will find the resonant point for you. So you need to use this the way it tells you to use it in the book. And it should find the resonant point for you. And then you'll have to tweak it a little bit as you track around. If you go to 40 meters, the resonant point is only like 10 kilohertz wide. Okay, you can see how it's real easy to skip over that. And that little capacitor in there, that little motor turns the capacitor very, very slowly. So I would suggest that you go and see if you can use the instructions for this to tune that antenna, because you need to let this find the resonant point for that. If you wish to check it out for me, I'll make no, I don't consult. I don't consider myself good enough to consult. If you have problems with it, you should send it back to MFJ. There's really nothing in there to go wrong. I mean, this is complex, what's in here. There's circuit boards and stuff like that in here, okay? What's in the antenna itself is very simple. Now, if the little loop, the feeding loop down at the bottom, if you squash that a little bit, sometimes that helps with the bandwidth on the thing. You can eke out a little bit more bandwidth. Okay, so Noel, good luck with that. Give it a try. Realize that you have to tune very, very slowly with that thing to hit the right point. Because that capacitor doesn't just cover the handbands. It covers the whole HF band. Everything. From 7 megahertz to 15, or from 14 megahertz on up to, or I think it's 30 megahertz, 30 meters on up to 10. There's two versions of it. Okay, good luck with that. Let's see, ask Dave. Okay. Oh, this is the same one, the guy in Indonesia. How'd that come back? Okay. This is Mohib A41 Juliet Zulu from the Sultanate of Oman. He has heavy QRM in his shack. He has a water well in my house. It is very close to the oceans. Can I put the copper rod into the 20-meter deep well to reduce the noise? Your quick response is highly appreciated. Well, it was only 4 hours ago. Of course, it's, what, 2 in the morning? Yeah. No, it's probably like 3 or 4 in the morning in Oman. This is D. Mohib, A41 Juliet Zulu. Okay, putting a copper rod in a freshwater well is not going to help any, because fresh water is a lousy conductor of electricity. If, however, you were very close to the ocean and you managed to get that into salt water, you'd have a phenomenal ground. I agree with you that grounding makes a huge difference in the noise. And putting a ground rod into sand is not going to give you much. There's 2 things you can do. Put a longer ground rod in. There are couplers you can get for them so you can keep on going down. But better yet, put ground rods like at 6-foot intervals around your home and connect them all together. And then you'll have a pretty good ground. Okay? And that can help you with the noise too. But if it's a freshwater well, I don't think it's going to. And if you've got fresh water at your house, salt water is probably a ways away. I don't know how the hydrography works out there, but probably would. So Mohib, I think that will address your question there. Okay, let's go. This is from okay, now this is a follow-up to something I answered before. Let's see, he's passed a CNE for naval engineer, CNI instructor. Oh, aircraft. Okay. Okay, it's just a thank you for reading the question on this. Let's see. This is from a guy who lives in a very HOA regulated place. And he has a flagpole antenna. Now the flagpole antenna is by Greyline, Grey, which is the British way of spelling it. The American way of spelling it is Gray. Greyline makes the antenna, he's got Greyline, and it is in itself an off-center fed dipole positioned vertically. Okay, so no radials, although you can put them out. I suggested, he says that I've often said you should improve your antenna, invest in your antenna before you get an amplifier. And I'm looking at his antenna and saying, you've done about the best you can do. The only one thing I would do additionally is drive a ground rod near the antenna and connect the shield side of the coax to the ground rod. That would help a little. At this point, about his only option, he says he can hear people, but they can't hear him. Okay, this is the point where you turn to an amplifier. He has a less than optimum antenna, but it's all he can do. It's the best he can do, and he's clearly worked very hard at it. So the next step, which won't help him hear stations better, but will help the other stations hear him, is the amplifier. And MFJ, the Greyline antenna, will handle more power, lots of power, but the MFJ 994 BRT tuner he has right at the base of the antenna can only handle 600 watts. And MFJ makes a number of 600 watt antennas, 600 watt amplifiers. So he can go to one of those. I have an ALS 500M, which is actually designed as a mobile antenna. It's right here. It's 500 watts. And I got a deal on that. It fell into my lap, and so I just took it. Was very delighted with it. He says he has an MFJ 2010 reference station antenna. Also used an MFJ 939 tuner. You shouldn't need a tuner with that antenna. Set it up outside with a temporary support. It works, but it seems to give 1.1 to 2 S units less than the flagpole. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that a vertical antenna will tend to pick up more noise than a horizontal antenna. A horizontal antenna and a vertical antenna might have the same signal level from an incoming signal, but the vertical antennas are often just a little noisier. I haven't actually found that to be a problem, but then I live in a very RF quiet area. Okay, this one is from Terry Presunt. I am part of the Papa Network and watched your presentation on station grounding. Now, this is one thing I do. If your club is looking for a speaker via Zoom, I am happy to do that. Was supposed to give one to the Gwinnett County Ham Club, and I just gotten out of the hospital and I had to beg off. But I will get back to them next year. Let's see, asked a question about my station being in the second floor with lightning arresters directly under the station, so the run was reasonably short, but did not remember the answer. What wire size would you recommend for the station ground? I would recommend that you not use cylindrical wire. Rather use something flat. You can get a flat, either like braid, 1/2 inch or 1 inch braid that will run down there, or get a copper strap. It's like 1 inch. You don't really need much more than that. Some people like to do 2, but that gets expensive. A 1 inch copper strap running from your in-shack single point ground down to your station signal point ground, which is the ground rod that's right below where all the lightning arresters are connected. So that's what I would recommend doing. Now, I understand you're on the second floor, and there's going to be some give and take getting the wires in the right place, but I don't think you'll run into ground loops. I've got a friend in Montrose whose shack is on the second floor, and he does what I've suggested. He runs all his cables down to a ground rod and then there to his antennas, and he's fine. He does well with that. Okay? So, let's see. This is from Charlie Boyer, W4LDT. Would you make a video showing how to tune a Butternut antenna? Oh. If there's any way you can avoid tuning a Butternut antenna, do it. The problem with it's the HF9V is what he's talking about. It's being made by DX Engineering now because Butternut went away. And DX Engineering is making the Butternut. They've got a far, far better book than the old original Butternut handbook. So this is a hand-me-down antenna, and it's got the original Butternut book. Go to the DX Engineering website and download the new instruction book. It has a much better tuning arrangement. It tells you you do it differently and in much better steps, and it works much better. One of the problems with the antenna is that 30 meters was an add-on, and it attaches to the 40 meter coil, and so the two interact like mad. When I tuned that thing last, I had my wife sitting in the shack. She had a 2 meter rig or the phone or something, and I was out at the antenna, and I'd make adjustments, step 20 feet back from the antenna, ask her what had happened. Did it go up? Did it go down? And it took us half a day to tune that antenna. It's not trivial to tune a Butternut. I'm new to the hobby. With any hobby I'm engaged in, rather than buying junk and upgrading, try to get good equipment. Yes, this is true. Saw you own one with good... It is a good antenna. It is. It's a very good antenna. It loves radials. Ground mount it and put as many radials down as you can. 30 radials, each 20 feet long or something like that. You just lay them on the ground. Okay, so tuning the Butternut antenna, make sure if you bought it new, you bought it from DX Engineering and you got the new book. And if you follow that book closely, it will tune. And then you'll have a wonderful antenna, because it will cover it will cover a very small part of 80, and then it will cover 40, all of 40, and on up from there. It will not cover 60. None of the multiband antennas cover 60. It's a harmonically weird frequency. And it's just not easy to make a multiband antenna cover it. The step IR, big IR that I have here, which by the way replaced the Butternut antenna, it tunes by varying the length of a tape in a long tube. And so you can put it right on 60 and have it perform very, very well. But for a fixed length antenna, the Butternut antenna, the other hard things to do are the 15 meter and 6 meter stubs. So you'll be playing with those for a while. Once you get it tuned, it's a fantastic antenna. Fantastic antenna. But it is very difficult to tune. So I would get a buddy to sit at your radio or put your antenna analyzer. Put your antenna analyzer. I've got mine out on display here. Put this in the shack so that you're using all the cable and everything that you're going to be using when you're actually operating it. Because what you want to tune, you're tuning the antenna and the coax. Because the coax interacts with this antenna. Okay? So if you try to tune it at the antenna with a short piece of coax, and then you attach the long coax, you're going to run into trouble, as everything's going to be out of tune. And that was where I ran into trouble. So get a buddy, your significant other, or someone else who's willing, club member, to sit in your shack and then have 2 meter rigs or something so you can talk to each other, and you'll make a little adjustment. You'll step away and you'll be doing that. You'll be there for 3 or 4 hours to get that thing tuned. And it will be worth the effort once you get it done. So good luck. Remember that my favorite word in ham radio is persistence. So Charlie, persist. Okay. This is from Gary Henneman. N9FOK, which came in 2 minutes ago. Wow. Hi Dave, I want to erect an 80 meter full wave horizontal loop at around 35 feet using 12 to 14 American wire gauge insulated stranded wire or copper weld. Which do you think is the better choice? Well, copper weld is certainly stronger. You won't have as much sag in the elements. Although with the THHN wire, you can pull that pretty tight. The thing about standard house wire is that it is soft copper and it will stretch. After a while, it won't stretch anymore, so you'll be okay there. And as it stretches, you'll have to tweak the tuning. The copper weld will not stretch. It's more expensive, it's harder to get, it's harder to work with. It has a steel interior and a copper coating. Okay, and it's the copper coating that matters, because at RF, the energy goes to the outside of the cylindrical conductor. That's why you want flat ground straps, because it's the surface area that matters, not the cross section. It's the surface area. Okay, what length would get me in the ballpark for either choice of wire? 468 over F will give you a half wave, and then double that, and you'll get the full wavelength loop. I have had one of these loops. Okay, you will be able to use it on 80, 40, 20, 15, and 10. You should feed it with open wire line or ladder line. Somewhere in there, there's going to have to be a balun. You can bring the ladder line all the way into the shack and into your tuner. Most tuners will handle twin lead or ladder line or window line on them. It will tune on all of those. I will tell you that when I went to the Butternut HF9V, it was a far better antenna than the loop. And I eventually took the loop down and cut it into more radials. So a loop is not that fantastic an antenna. It will work. It is an all-band antenna from 80 all the way on up to whatever you want to use it for. It has very strange radiation patterns, especially in the higher bands. Many, many lobed radiation patterns. Will it work? Yes. I used it for quite a while. And then I refurbished my HF9B, used that for a few years. And then when that thing finally, it's so old, I mean the thing is ancient. 30 years now, 25 years. I got this Step IR, Big IR, which is my vertical antenna right now, which is the best vertical I've ever had, although at the moment it's not working. I've got a feed line problem somewhere. Okay, now, would the internal TS590 internal ATU handle it? No. No. You'll need to get a wide range tuner. I used the MFJ 993B. One, because it's got needles on it, I can actually see the SWR. And I like dancing needles. But it's an automatic tuner, and it will tune that kind of antenna. And what would the length be? Okay, 468 over F divided by, or times 2 to get the full length around there. And do it for 3.5 megahertz, not 4, but for 3.5. And then your tuner can tune all the way through the 80 meter band, anywhere you want to put it. It might work on 60 for you, but I don't think so. But it'll work on all the other handbands. It won't work on 160 or 60. Anything with a 60 in it, I guess. Okay. General class phone bands, yes. It will get them just fine. Now this antenna that you're talking about putting up, cheap, dirt cheap. So a good antenna, whereas you buy a vertical and you're paying lots of money for it, so okay. One more and then we'll go look at recent comments. This is from Larry Sandbo, WH6ABM, Hawaii. Yes, he said aloha. Aloha, Dave. I was rewatching your video on the QRP Labs Ultimate 3S Whisper Kit assembly and review, and I bought the kit for 40 meters and am thinking of increasing to also cover 30. Well, Well, you can get, this is not a QRP, it's from QRP Labs, but it is not the QCX. The QCX is a little single band QRP CW rig. The QRP Labs Ultimate 3S is a whisper transmitter. You can get a receiver for it too, but it will transmit in the whisper portion of the bands. It is in essence a beacon. Go study whisper and see what it does. If you are going to have multi-bands, you need the little relay kit that comes in there and plugs in, so that you can switch between low-pass filters. Because if you're going to do 40, you're going to need the 40 low-pass filter, 30 to 30. Now, it all goes to the same antenna. Okay? This is why you need a broadband antenna, because that thing's going to be switching bands on you. So, you need something that's broadband that doesn't need tuning, because it's all automatic. It doesn't need tuning. So a vertical, or you can make a fan dipole for the bands that you want. Something like that. An off-center fed if it'll cover the bands. Now you want 40 and 30. You can do that with a fan dipole. You make that yourself for very little money. And then you have the one feed line that'll work on either band. And your little whisper thing can sit over there and do its own thing all the time. Okay, it whispers really fun. I've got some videos on it. Okay, let's go back to live stream. Okay, now I have to admit that I've lost a huge section of comments, and I apologize for that. This is from Todd. What do I know about the Mercury 3S amp? I'm sorry, I don't know anything about it. With a name like Mercury, it sounds like a CB amp. I don't know. Send me some more information on it. Aside from where am I at? I am in Ridgeway, Colorado. Well, I'm about 10 miles north of Ridgeway, Colorado. Aside from build quality, would there be any difference between off-center dipoles as far as quality received? No. Now, you can spend any amount of money you want for just about anything. Like, for example, the Alpha Delta DXEE is $150. The very fine, high-quality dipole. I mean, that thing is going to withstand Armageddon, I think. Whereas the MFJ is just made of pretty ordinary materials and won't. But electrically, they're about the same. So, and let's see. Sean McGrath. Hello, Sean. Sean is a patron and an Augie and taught me ground school. And Sean, I haven't given up on flying. Last time I flew was September 29th, and I will fly again soon. The doctors actually cleared me to fly, but the airplane is down to get a new tack. My DX Commander, this is Sean, survived this nor'easter. It is guide at the first and third plate, working fine with the radials and plate base buried under a foot of snow, because he forgot to put it down. Snow is the same as fresh water. It's a lousy conductor of electricity. So it's like putting an insulating blanket over the thing, but it doesn't bother the antenna. It will work just fine. Okay, yes. Spokane from Roger. Made an end-fed halfway for 40 with copper speaker wire. Stretched like a foot and a half. Yeah, the soft copper will stretch. THHN doesn't stretch that much. It's pretty sturdy stuff. It's got to be strong enough that electricians, they drill those holes in the studs and they pull the wire through. It's got to be strong enough to put up with a lot of force pulling that wire through. I've pulled on some of them pretty hard. But you will get a little stretch over time. Should I upgrade to an Icom 7300 from 718? That's up to you, Trad. The 7300 is the reference station, but the 718 is a little older radio. It depends. If the 718 is doing what you want, keep it. If you're the kind of person who buys a new car every year, then get the 7300. The 7300's been out about 5 years. So it's not like the newest. That would be the FTDX10D. And I don't know anything about that particular radio. I'll find out more. But the 7300 is a really nice radio. This is from KE0OG. Ink is finally dry on my license. Very good. Let's see. Max. What is the maximum power of an unlicensed device in the AM broadcast band and handbands respectively under Part 15? And the AM broadcast band's like 100 milliwatts. I don't know the exact number. On the handbands, it's 0. Okay, unlicensed devices are not allowed on the handbands. Okay, contrary to popular opinion. You have to have a license to transmit anything, even QRP, on the handband. So go ahead and get the license. It's not that hard. Thoughts on the DX Commander antenna? It is sitting out here. Brad Rich offered to me the other day to come up and finish putting it together for me. I've been really dawdling on that one, I know. It's under a foot of snow right now, so I think it's going to be a little while before we see it again, and we'll try and put it up. A lot of people really like that antenna. I would like to get the new Yaesu radio, the FTMP200, but to pay $45 to $4,800 just to go hello CQ. Yeah, well, there's a whole class of premium radios that you can pay a great deal of money for. Do they put out a better signal? There will be a difference in audio quality that would take an audiophile to really identify. There may be, out of 2,000 DX stations, maybe 5 you'd be able to get with the new radio that you wouldn't be able to get with the 7300. There are lots of bells and whistles, and they are for people who like lots of bells and whistles. Buy the 7300, okay? Mash the like, yeah, 126, I see 130. Over Christmas, installing a G90 transceiver. I've got one right here. That's the G90. MFJ has loaned it to me. I owe them some more reviews on that thing. I think I may go ahead and buy it from them. It's a nice radio. And my antenna is 80 to 10 at my mountain house in Maggie Valley. How do you install a ground into a rocky foundation? Well, you can get ground rod drivers, but if it's really rocky, you're not going to get real far with it. One thing you can do, if you can cut open a trench that's like a foot deep, okay, lay the ground rod in there sideways, cover it over, and you've got half a ground rod, the part that goes down. To get the other half of the ground rod, lay out one on the other side and bury that, and you'll have the equivalent of a ground rod. The other thing you can do is something called an oofer ground, and this will depend on whoever built your cabin, whether they left the oofer ground exposed. Okay, look up oofer, it's U-F-E-R, oofer ground on Wikipedia. Tell you all about it. It's actually built into the foundation of the building. And the Army developed that for a lot of buildings it was putting in the Southwest during the war, during World War II, and they couldn't put ground rods in. It was just too hard. So they put into the concrete. They put the ground in the concrete. Well, remember what concrete is. When it dries, it's rock. It's rock. And so it will conduct just as well as any other rock. And so they put a real long piece of rebar in there and then leave part of it sticking up through the foundation somewhere in your basement. Okay, and that is your oofer ground. Okay, let's see, I have a 6 BTV on the 3rd floor balcony. The antenna will be braced high enough to throw radials on the roof. Zone covering angle is 75 degrees. Will that work? Well, it'll work. How well it will work, you won't know till you try it. And no antenna, no ham ever ends up with the same antenna they started with. They're always changing their antennas. In your opinion, what is the best and HOA-friendly antenna? Well, attic antennas. You can, and I know somebody who did this, put up one of those MFJ loops out in the backyard and disguise it as a bird feeder or something. A friend of mine up in Montrose has a wire that runs around his eaves all the way around. He uses that as a loop. There is, of course, flagpole antennas, which are kind of expensive. And then there's this. I don't know how well this works yet. This is a 20 meter antenna from Isotron. And it's supposed to be a 20 meter antenna. It's got a whale of a big coil on it here. So I'm going to try this out. Hopefully this week, if I can get outside. And then we've got a foot of snow in the backyard. So, okay. Current usage for QRP, QRSS, a whisper transmitter, says don't use the relay board due to noise problems. Use one LPF at a time. Is that official from QRP Labs? The relay board wouldn't create noise on transmit. Will I be doing a Christmas Eve live stream? That is the current plan. Unless we go somewhere for Christmas. We're thinking that with the pandemic, we are going to stay put and not go traveling. So if that's the case, I'll be doing a live stream. You'd be surprised how many people are at loose ends over the holidays. It's a very large number. I'd say more than half of people of ham radio age are at loose ends over the holidays. And so this is something very nice that we can do, which would mean I'd also be doing it on New Year's Eve. Now, New Year's Eve is the straight key night for CW, too. Okay, QSL cards. He's suggesting a movement to send QSL cards to the president. And I am doing much better. I'm not all the way. I keep my oxygen down here. And last night I used it. I came up from the basement. I was really short of breath and used the oxygen for a while. So it's still there and I still use it at night. Operators must be licensed, but the equipment need not be. Yes, that is true. Todd, I got the first part. I heard a couple hams talking about how awesome it was. Must be in reference. Oh, the Mercury 3S. It's a kit build. Solid state HF amplifier uses... Oh, I'll have to look at it. Okay. Love my G90. It's turning out to be a pretty nice radio. Also have a 746 Pro, which is venerable radio. I'm not going to get a 7300, rather save for a 7610. Well, I did use a 7610 for a while. I had Brad Rich's for a while. And it is a very, very, very nice radio. I would not recommend it as a first radio. For that matter, I would not recommend the G90 as a first radio. It's only 20 watts. I recommend 100-watt radios for first-timers. Let's see. Oh, my goodness. It's like second mortgage, yeah. Using old 751, yep. Okay. Use tar heel screwdriver on a pool cage and an HOA, that works. Okay. Chimney antenna. And Ben Karen passed his general last Friday. It's congratulations to you. Hello from JA, from somebody with Japanese initials here. Let's see, all the way from Nihon. Especially this unprecedented holiday. Okay, very good. New ham. Love what you do. I'm glad. I'm very glad. Okay, we are out of time. In fact, we're 5 minutes over. I apologize for that. Optical Man Jeff has thrown $15 into the channel funds. And for that, we've gotten to the $80 that this thing costs. So all I can say is this thing better work, because a lot of you have supported its purchase and so on. And Isotron's been doing this stuff for 40 years, so there must be something to it. Considering in the 7300 for first HF radio, yes, you don't need that to do FT8. You can do FT8 with just about any radio. But the 7300 is a good radio. It'll take you several years to grow out of it. Okay. So I'm going to say 73. Remember to send your questions to hamradioanswers@gmail.com. Okay. And I'm, still trying for videos every day. I'm not getting it every day. I missed one yesterday. But still trying to do that. I may not, probably won't do a video Christmas Day. And probably not on New Year's Day. But I want to give everybody, we're going through this pandemic together. There is light at the end of the tunnel. This week we finally saw the release of a vaccine. And I think I cried when I saw that on TV, saw that truck rolling out of there. Man, the beginning of the end of the nightmare. So we will see you all next week, and in the meantime, 73.